Hi everyone, Mr. Panchich here. How are you guys doing? Haven't seen you in a while. I miss you guys. We are starting up a long distance learning sort of arrangement now, so I'm hoping that you'll join in. You really get some good stuff out of what we're going to do with the rest of our year. I hope you guys are doing all right. I hope everyone in your family's all right. We're pretty much okay over here. Just hunkering down and trying to take care of things. I hope you guys have seen already the little piece I posted about nature in your backyard, and that you've gone around, saw some maybe squirrels, chipmunks, bunny rabbits that are coming out now in the spring, different types of birds. You might have seen cardinals, you might have seen blue jays, and taken a couple pictures and shared them with us. And if you're having trouble finding that, please just give me an email, or you can see me during office hours. And I sent you guys a Google Doc with the office hours. There'll be a link posted just before those office hours. You just click on that link and you join the chat. So the last thing we were discussing was, how much does it take to make? How much does it take to make a newspaper? How much does it take to make a burger and fries? How much does it take to make a cup of coffee? And we looked at the type of resources that were required to provide us with the simple things that we use every day. And we also looked at the impact to the ecosystems, well, basically our whole Earth, that resulted from providing us with those just simple, basic, everyday things. So what we do and how we live leaves an impression on the Earth, much like walking on a beach leaves an impression of our footprints on the sand. Now, we as human beings on the Earth, we're part of the Earth. And so much the same way our footprints disappear due to wind and waves, our footprints on the Earth sort of get taken care of by the resources of the Earth, up to a point. And that's the key, up to a point. The mark that our actions and lifestyles leave on the Earth are called our ecological footprint. What's your footprint? It's much like that footprint in the sand. So what I'd like to do is to just explore that a little bit, and I'd like you to check out this video on what is an ecological footprint.
Our human activities consume resources and produce waste, and nature needs to have the capacity to meet these demands. The ecological footprint is a way to measure our human demand on nature. Every one of us has an ecological footprint. The footprint represents the impact of a person, a household, a city, a business, or a country on nature. Things like food, energy, transportation, goods and services all contribute to our ecological footprint. The footprint is expressed as the amount of land and water required to produce what we consume and to absorb the waste we generate. By measuring the ecological footprint, we can assess the pressure our lifestyle puts on the planet. This helps us to manage our ecological assets more wisely and to take personal and collective action.
Okay, now that you've seen that, try those questions on the Google Docs page that you downloaded or that you're looking at the same time. See if you can answer those few questions. Then let's talk about a simpler way to look at things. So the ecological footprint takes into account a lot of things. In fact, everything is involved in this ecological footprint. What we eat, what we consume, its impacts on all aspects of life on the planet, and things that are not even alive: air, water, soil. So it's quite big. There's a lot of things involved. We need a simpler way to look at it. And so a simpler way is to look at something we call the carbon footprint. Now, carbon footprint is a little different, and it's taking a smaller view, but not that much smaller. Carbon is in everything. Everything that we eat has carbon in it. I mean, fats, carbohydrates, proteins are mostly carbon. That's what we eat. We breathe out carbon dioxide. So we are mostly made of molecules that contain carbon. Everything alive contains carbon, and everything we burn contains carbon. All the fuel contains carbon that we use. Oil, coal, natural gas, all carbon-based fuel. So by looking at carbon, and carbon going into the atmosphere as greenhouse gases, and carbon coming into us as food, and carbon moving all through the living biosphere, we can get a handle on where things are going and how much resources we are consuming without taking into account as a broad a scope as the ecological footprint. Let's see a little video to kind of talk to us about carbon footprint. There'll be a few questions after that too.
Greenhouse gases absorb heat when they interact with sunlight. They are the reason Earth has a climate. Your carbon footprint is the total of all of the greenhouse gas produced by what you do and by the energy spent making the things you buy. The place you live, the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the food you eat, even that cup of morning coffee, all consume energy. They all add up to your carbon footprint. Just like the water cycle, there is a natural carbon cycle present in our atmosphere. Carbon is the building block of life on Earth, and there is a natural carbon cycle between animal life, forests, and oceans. This cycle has been known to be in balance for over 800,000 years, with natural atmospheric carbon ranging between 180 and 280 parts per million. Carbon levels relate very closely to global temperatures, as you can see from temperature data over the same time period. However, since the Industrial Revolution, human activity has dramatically increased the amount of carbon being released, meaning the carbon cycle is becoming increasingly out of balance. If our emissions continue to climb, our temperatures are sure to follow. The good news is we can take action to make changes because we know why this is happening. This is happening because of our use of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels contain carbon that has been outside of the carbon cycle for millions of years. So every time we use fossil fuels, we are increasing the amount of carbon that is in the active carbon cycle. The impact of buildup of greenhouse gas leading to climate change.
That is a little bit about what a carbon footprint is. And you can see that carbon footprint is tied to global warming, because the more carbon dioxide that goes into the atmosphere, the warmer our planet is getting. And we can see that that's been a marked trend over the last 40, 50 years at least. So what I'd like you to do is go to questions 5, 6, and 7 and see if you can answer those. Now, not everyone on Earth lives the same way. Some people and some countries have greater footprint than other ones. Some countries have a high standard of living, like we do, and some countries which have a lower standard of living have more people. So if each person has a smaller footprint, more people would give the country a larger footprint. These things play against each other. And to get a look at that, I'd like us to take a look at the map, and you'll see it. And let's go to it right now. All right, if we take a look at the map of the world here, what you can do is hit the link on your worksheet, and that will take you to this map, and you can hit the right button here, you'll see biocapacity per person. So this is the amount of resilience, the amount of capacity that that land has, the country has, for each person. And you can see down here in Australia, Australia is a very large country with a population that lives close to the coast. So its darker green is telling us that the biocapacity is 10 to 25 global hectares per person in the country. In other words, it's got a pretty high biocapacity. Whereas someplace like India, where there's a lot more people for its size, has a much lower biocapacity. And China, the same thing. South Africa, the same thing. And you can go and move your cursor over each one of these countries and find out what its name is, which is very nice. Of course, we're right there. So what does our biocapacity say about us? That's per person. We can click this and see the biocapacity for the country itself, total biocapacity. Australia is still in pretty good shape. We have a very high biocapacity. Look at that. So does Russia, so does China, and so does Brazil as a country. Now let's look at the impacts. Here's the ecological footprint per person. Of course, the darker the color, the bigger the footprint. And what does this tell us about the United States and Canada over here? And interestingly enough, Mongolia and the Arab Emirates in terms of what we consume. Let's look at the total ecological footprint of the country. And that gives us another view of this. And you can see all of a sudden Brazil has a much higher ecological footprint. The US, China, India have the highest in the world. Now, if we have on one side the footprint, what we consume, and on the other side, the biocapacity, what the countries can handle, we put them together and we'll get an ecological deficit reserve. We'll get this map. And this shows us basically the trade-off. Brazil is in pretty good shape. It's got more capacity than it's using. So Brazil has more of a resiliency, but look at the United States. Look at most of Europe and this whole swath of countries right across the globe. The darker the red is basically countries that are living beyond what their country can sustain. And so, of course, they're farming out that to other countries in terms of resources that are used and wastes that are disposed of, as well as the oceans. But this kind of gives us a sobering thought about how much we actually use versus how much our country can actually support. What do you think? What I'd like you to do, on your sheet you can see this, is look at these maps more carefully. Let's take some time and look at Brazil, Cameroon, the United States, and China in more detail. And tell me what you can conclude about those four countries based on those maps. Let's take some time and fill out that table there on the worksheet page that you were looking at. So I'd like you to take a look at this table here on your page. Look at these 5 maps carefully and tell me what conclusions can you draw from looking at these maps about Brazil, Cameroon, the United States, and China. Just write them in these boxes, what you can kind of draw from that. What sort of shape are they in? How do they compare with each other? And that's the end of part 1. Good, you've done a lot of work today. It's time to take a break, come back and start with part 2 whenever you're ready. You have 1 week to do both parts, so organize your time accordingly. And if you have any questions, see me at office hours or shoot me an email. See you in a bit. Hi, welcome back for part 2. So now we're sitting back down. We took a look at these maps about ecological footprints, and basically America's great, right? America, we have this fabulous lifestyle. Oh, we have a car, some have 2 cars. We've got, you know, who has had to go and collect firewood to cook dinner, huh? Nah, we turn a little knob and we get hot water anytime we want it. And life is good. Life is really good here. We go to movies, we have nice clothes, it's great. Everyone in the world would love to live like we live. Everyone. And that's pretty much what's happening. Everyone in China is moving up to the standard of living that we have. Everyone in India is aspiring to that standard of living that we have. And as we saw, we are already outstripping what our Earth's capacity is, or what our country's capacity is. So here's a thought. What if everyone on planet Earth lived the way that you lived? Could the Earth sustain it? How many Earths would it take to support that lifestyle for everybody? How many Earths would that take? And at what day, what of the year would we actually use up all the resources that would be allotted to each person? Those are good questions. And we're going to take a look at a footprint calculator, which we have online. And I have a link to it on the Google Doc. You'll see it there below. And let's take a look at that Google Doc right now. Okay, here we are at part 2. Let's take a look at our own families and see how we live. So if you go to your, well, I don't have the link on this page, but I have it on yours. If you go to that link, you'll have to enter with your school address. It won't let you go in unless you put in an email address. So use your school email address. There's a button that says donate, donate, donate. You don't need to donate. We're just going to run through and check this out. This is called the Global Footprint Calculator page. And what it's going to do is take you through a series of steps where you enter stuff about yourself. And here's the things that it's going to ask. It's going to ask what kind of diet you have, where's your food sourced from, what type of house do you have, its construction. And what I want you to do is right next to it, I want you to enter what you write. I mean, if you are a vegetarian, right, or actually, what I want you to do is write what your family does, because I would like to take a look at this as more of an average, maybe not exactly what you do, but what your family does. So if your family are vegetarians, and you wrote that in the if your family is vegetarians and you wrote it in the calculator, I want you to put it here on your spreadsheet. Housing type, just put all that information here. Run it and tell me, what is your personal overshoot day? What does that mean? What do you think that means? How many Earths would we need if that was your lifestyle? I want you to play with it. I want you to see what you can do with it. See, can you change your lifestyle in some way and actually reduce your global footprint? Then what I want you to do is see if you could get it down to 1 Earth, because in fact, that's all we've got, 1 Earth. What's the point of saying we're going to use 2 Earths or 3 Earths or 5 Earths? We only got 1. Can you do that? And if you can't, why not? Why do you think you're not able to get down to a sustainable lifestyle? Write your thoughts down. I'm very interested to see what you say. And we'll pick it up again next week. Bye now.